I want to see a peek here. Come on, show me a peek. Show me a peek. Show me a peek. Show me. You have a dash. Come on, show me. Not like that. No. I asked for it. It's my fault. I asked for it. Not like that. What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we're actually going to be breaking down footage from a bronze duelist main. And let's actually read what this duelist main sent me, and then we're going to jump into the content. So when jumping into what they said, they actually put... it's Sparrow Gaming, and he said, "Hello, sir. I'm a Valorant player, bronze 3. A lot of players say I should be in gold, but I'm in bronze. I don't know what is keeping me behind. I need some advice for you." So this is a player that is in bronze, high bronze, but thinks that they should be all the way up in gold, which is like, 2 ranks in between there. And then they sent me this screenshot of them playing, and honestly, it looks pretty good. A lot of team MVPs, a lot of match MVPs, high kills in every single game, but he's not climbing. So let's actually dig into the issue and figure out what is holding him back from climbing. Is it his fault? Are his teams trash? What is the issue? Is he truly hard stuck? We're about to find out, but the GameLeap website has tons of breakdowns just like this, where we really dig into the decision making, tips and tricks that you can incorporate in order to become the best version of yourself and dominate every single game. If you really want to climb and reach peak after peak, do yourself a favor, go check out the GameLeap website right now down below. Okay, so right off the bat, you're going to be holding A short, and I do say a lot, especially for you players that are trying to climb and trying to get better. Positionally, pick a place on a map that you're holding and try to hold there consistently. So if you're like a mid holder, keep holding there and learn how to hold. Learn when to rotate. Learn all of the situations where an enemy could push. And the reason that you keep holding the same spot is you get used to all the different scenarios. So I find that a lot of lower rank players will like sometimes play here, and then they'll sometimes play here, then they'll sometimes play here and here and here. And it's really hard for you to master a position when you're kind of playing hopscotch with these positions. And if you think about how many rounds go about, you want to get used to as many scenarios as possible in your specific position that you like to hold. I'm not saying don't learn other places later. And of course, there's spots that different characters work better in. But I am saying that you only get to play defense, haven every once in a while when you think about the huge map pool. And if you don't play a lot and you're hopscotching around every single position you're playing, every single game, it's going to be really hard to get enough repetitions holding a position to get competent at it or master that area. So anyways, let's actually jump in to see how you're going to hold this. Okay, so it looks like you're going to come in close here. Okay, so this is very interesting, this type of position. And there's things I like about it, and there's things I don't like about it. Let's first talk about some of the pros. Some of the pros is you have a classic. You could right-click an enemy. You could potentially get a kill here. Enemies have to come clear you. You have a dash. You have smoke. So you can kind of dash. You can dash in this general direction and smoke the opening. And you might be able to get out. And that's decent. And a lot of times, if enemies don't clear you here, you might get a free kill. And that's the other huge positive is, if an enemy doesn't clear you here, you're probably going to get some free value. Now, what are the problems with this position? I would say if an enemy uses an ability to clear you here, you're kind of screwed. If let's say the enemy, you see that the enemy have a raise, right? If they boombot here, you have to dash away. And the enemies can shoot you in the back because your dash away will not get you completely out of their LOS if they're standing over here. So it's very all in, and you're really hoping that you don't get cleared with utility here. Otherwise, you're absolutely fucked, like honestly. And I have a feeling that the enemies are probably not going to clear you here. But you have to understand that as enemies get better and better, they're going to clear these areas. They're going to clear them with guns. They're going to clear them with abilities. And typically, tucking into a corner like this should be done only under 2 situations. The first situation that you should do it is when you're basically gambling. You're gambling that the enemy will not clear you. And you might be asking, what do I mean by gambling? I'm saying you hold an angle. Let's say the enemy have rifles, right? They have a Vandal. And you're like, all right, I'm poor. I'm saving. I'm going to buy a shorty and I'm going to hold this cubby. And so that means that if the enemy doesn't invest in abilities and they don't clear me, I'm going to get a free kill and I'm going to be able to upgrade to a better weapon. Now, odds are they will clear you, but if they don't, the reward is so high. And that's the gamble. The other example is give the enemies a reason not to clear you here. And you might be asking, okay, here is pretty hard, but in general, why would an enemy not clear? Well, there's two ways that you can trick an enemy into not clearing, or you can disincentivize an enemy to clear. So the first thing is you have an ally playing right here or right here, right? And that ally is shooting down this lane. And you set this up with a teammate. And so what that does is these guys that are pushing short, they cannot afford to clear everything because they are afraid of the immediate distraction that is at the top. So that's the first way. Now, the second way is by lurking up or playing in a cutoff location where enemies are unlikely to know that you're there, and it's difficult for them to clear. So let's say this battle like progresses, you know, this guy rotates, and like the enemies are pushing C, like all of them, and your team are holding C, and at some point the enemies just decide to retreat out, right? But in the meantime, you lurk up here and you're holding like this corner right here where I'm marking. You could even be holding something like a cubby here. You could even be holding here. And so the odds are enemies are not going to clear you from these locations depending on the timing. Now, if the enemies have time, like if they have like a full minute, they're way more likely to clear, right? They can clear everything and they can look around everything. Good players will. But the less time they have, the less they can afford to clear everything. Because if they spend too much time during this rotation on the way back, like they're like, oh, the entire team is here. They see 4 people and they're like, oh, let's go to A. If they don't have a lot of time left and they clear every single corner on the way back, by the time they get to actual site, they're not going to have any time to clear things. And that could be really, really bad, especially when they are less in members, right? If they only have like 2 or 1 person. And that could be really, really difficult. So they're less likely to clear and you're more likely to get value tucking in a corner. So those are the 2 reasons. Either you're cutting off an enemy rotation, or you're in a cubby that they're very unlikely to clear, or you have an ally specifically baiting, or you're playing for a gamble. Those are the only 3 times that you should really be tucking in a cubby, because otherwise all the enemy needs to do is just, you know, use a very really minimal amount of utility here, and you're completely screwed, and you're gonna die for free. Now, will they do this? Probably not, because they're in bronze, but I regress. Oh, look at that. Not only she's like, nah. She just bunny hops through. Neither check. And that's another problem, is this could be really bad, especially in the lower ranks. It's really easy to where like one person goes and you just assume that things are clear, which is really bad. Like, do not trust your allies. This Reyna is probably pissed at the Sage, but you should not be trusting your allies to clear things at all. And that this applies double the lower in rank you go, because you just can't rely on them to be indicators that there are no people around unless they specifically cleared it. So oftentimes you need to do it yourself. Now let's see, you got the jump on this person, so you should probably kill her. You do kill her. You get to tuck in, and then you get the trade. Looks like the Raze is pissed at you for whatever reason. So let's actually look at this last fight. So you kill here. You kill here. These are pretty good. I don't really know where you're kind of running back and forth here. So here, yeah, you could fight this guy. You could dash away. I think you could probably challenge him. You take a little bit of damage, so. Okay, so this is something that I see a lot of lower rank Jetts like do. You don't have to turn around and dash. Like, you can, you know, just dash to the side, smoke the ground. You can smoke the ground, updraft, and then dash out. There's a lot of different variations here. You definitely don't have to turn around and then dash. And, you know, being a little bit too hesitant to give up that dash is definitely not a good thing. I mean, you didn't have to die here at all. So sometimes I know it's frustrating when you like use a dash and you're like, damn, I wasted it. I didn't even need to use it. Like, I killed a guy, dash, and there was no one nearby. The general rule of thumb is better safe than sorry with Jett, because a moment of hesitation will often get you killed. And then you're not using that dash anyways, right? You're dead. So this is typically, oh God. Okay, I hope this is not the fight. I know I talk about eco a lot in a lot of my low rank VODs, and I'm not trying to roast anybody here, but specifically, eco is such a huge, it's so important, and in the lower ranks, people just don't care. If you're going to force, so forcing second round is very risky. In the Ares meta, it's way more common, but it's still very risky. And typically, you want to save for rifles. You let the enemy buy whatever they're going to buy, you know, rifles light, or they buy, you know, Ares full armor or Spectre's full armor or whatever the case may be. And the majority of you are just saving, but you're trying to get as many kills as possible. Because like, let's say enemies buy, you know, various things and you manage to kill them, that really cripples their economy. If the enemy buy like 3 rifles plus light armor and you manage to kill 2 of them, and no one is alive at the end of the round to grab the other rifles, then the enemy might have a really bad buy. And the idea is to not win this round necessarily. It's cool if you do win, but it's to inflict as much damage as possible. And there's different ways to do that. You can typically, you want to play together with your teammates. Sometimes you even want to stack sites, and you're just trying to get you're trying to damage the enemy's eco as much as possible. Now, if you do forcing is risky, and I will say that forcing, especially when the game's at parity, is a way to very quickly lose a game, because the enemy, you force and the enemy win, and then the next round you can't buy again, so the enemy win again. And then the round after that, the enemy are so stacked on economy that they can buy things like ops, or even if they lose, they get to buy rifles again, and it can just feel overwhelming. And when you finally buy guns, if a lot of you die, then your economy is still screwed. So yeah, it can be a problem. So I don't necessarily think that forcing's the best thing. It can be good if everyone's on the same page, but typically you're gonna want to save. But there are a couple of characters that can buy. You could buy down to that 2K-ish, so that you could still buy again next. And characters like Jett, characters like Reyna, oftentimes it's okay for you to go a little bit under, because, you know, if a Jett has to buy a Vandal plus light armor in the next round, she's okay. On top of that, she can make up the economy later on with her knives. On top of that, she can utilize eco weapons better than just about any other character in the game. If you have something like a Marshal, if you have something like a shotgun or a Sheriff, you're going to get a lot more chances to get value out of that and cripple the enemy's economy than a lot of other characters in the game. So that's typically why you often see everyone saving, but a Jett buying like a Marshal, or but a Jett buying a Sheriff. That's fine, and it's for those exact reasons. Today's drink of the day is Zions, not a sponsor. If some energy drink company wants to sponsor me, I literally consume nothing but caffeine all day. So of various kinds. Anyways, okay, so I think that your team eventually went saving? Yeah, okay. Wait, no. I have no idea what your team did. So, so this peak right here is not that great. Typically, how you want to peak this, if you want to peak it at all, which I don't really think that there's a huge reason in you peaking, is jumping up. So you jump up diagonally, and then you move your mouse in like this. So like you'll jump out and back in. And the reason that you do that is you're literally just shoulder checking, and oftentimes instead of looking with your eyes, you look with your mini map, and your mini map will ping enemies. And it makes it so it's really hard for enemies to shoot you. You're not going to take any damage, and you get more information. It's going to take some practice for sure, but it definitely is something that you should do just in general. I would also wait a little bit longer than how soon you did this, because it's just a really tight angle. Enemies are looking down here. They're more likely to get damage on you. You really didn't want to take any damage here, and it's unfortunate that you end up taking a little bit of damage. Not a huge mistake, but it is something that's important. I would practice jump peeking. Man, y'all managed to get 2 kills here? 3 kills here? Holy shit. All right. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah, man, y'all got huge ups on eco. Huge ups. That's sick. Yeah, so like as a Jett player here, what I would do is just, you know, just run it back with the Vandal, and then in the next round, you just get to op. No matter win or lose, you get to op next round. And you just try to stack rounds and stack picks for the rest of the game, and you just snowball that shit. It's the enemy's fault for losing when they bought, like, honestly. And I think this is just a random thing. Never feel bad about opping. Like, I know that a lot of people make a big deal about it. It's up to the enemy to figure out a way to counter it. And oftentimes you can only op when the economy lines up. Like right there, your team managed to win, even though the ball was in the enemy's court to win. They had the huge economic advantage, and they still lost. So you get rewarded with free guns this round and an op next round. Okay, let's actually see what you do here. And I also think it's a really good idea here to compare the economy of you versus the enemy. Let's actually look. I think you check it for a split second. This is something really good to get in the habit of. When you don't really know what's gonna happen, like what types of weapons the enemy have, like y'all are doing like this little cross buy, half buy thing, and maybe it would have been better for you to buy like one of your teammates a weapon. Honestly, they never asked you for one, but it probably would have been better. But you want to look at the enemy's economy. And, you know, you can see that, hey, they might buy a rifle or they might save. But even if they save, they might have things like sheriffs and things like that. So that's kind of, you can have that in your mind. The Reyna could even buy something like light armor plus a rifle and then still buy again the next round. So that's something in your mind to take note of. Like, what weapons should I expect to face here? And that could be even more important when you think about, like, maybe the enemy have an op, and that's more so when you're playing attack. But it's definitely something to be thinking about, lining up what the enemy's economy is, and not just their economy, their ultimate as well, depending on what the enemies, you know, if the Jett had her knives, or if the enemies have ultimates, they might play fundamentally different. The Chamber has his op. So I would start thinking about that. Start thinking a little bit about not only economy in general, but how the enemy's economy affects your, like, how you should play. Because if the enemy are super fucking broke, you can be a little bit more aggressive with your long distance challenging. But if the enemy have enough for rifles, then you got to be a little bit more cautious. So that's just one example. So this is not enough information to rotate, by the way. I went over this in the last VOD I did, and it's something that I see a lot, where there'll be one person there and then the entire team will rotate as if that's where they're committing, which is not the case at all. Like, there's no confirmation that that's true. Now, there are certain characters that indicate a take more. Like a Sova, the enemy doesn't have a Sova, but if they did, it would indicate a take far more. So that's something to keep in mind, but there's nothing to stop enemies from rotating. There's no guarantee that that's not a lurker. There's all these little factors combined where you shouldn't overly rotate too quickly. Now, another thing about lower ranks, and I think this is kind of learned behavior, because rotating seems something that lower ranks don't do all that often. And it's something that players in general should do more. And I think that's why people just hard rotate, because there's way too much rushing. There's not enough stalling, and there's not enough rotation in general. So just have a little bit of more of an open mind. And I would say, don't rotate until you have, like, more of a confirmation that enemies are actually committing here. I'm actually interested so now you see two people, they got a pick, so they probably are committing. There's a good chance that the enemies could be committing here, but they also could have got that kill and rotated off. They haven't popped the trips yet, so. In fact, they probably are. What in the world was this? What is this? So I'm actually curious what you're holding here. What are you holding right here? We talk about crosshair placement a little bit, but what is this? What is this holding? You're definitely not holding to the right of you, because the trip hasn't been broken. This raise and this Cypher see both access points. This is looking at nothing. People can't go through walls yet. Not yet. They ain't kitty pride up in this bitch. Not yet. So I don't know, maybe if you lagged or something, but yeah, you're really not holding anything here. Nice, buying the Phantom. Let's see it. Good to see. Good to see. So this is the big fear, is like your entire team is here, and it's very possible that people rotate off. So this is an example of something where you could actually, like, push here and try to get information about a rotation, and maybe get some damage out as enemies rotate, just in case, and then you can always go help your team if they need it. That's slightly risky, but it also has the chance to level the playing field, because y'all are down in people. So an opportunity for you to get a pick to even the playing field before y'all have to retake. Because if the enemy rotate here and get to A and plant, now it's a 4v5 with them having the spike down, which can be pretty difficult. So I actually think it's worth it. Not to hold out here, but to actually peek out of this and challenge. You can always get away with your dash if you need to. No. It actually works. Okay. All right. Okay. So for one, I think you should have been out here a little bit sooner, so that you could cut off the rotation. Like, the second they got the pick down, your team rotated, you could have rotated and pushed up here, and then you could have been looking out grass and towards rotation and spawn in order to try to get some picks. The second thing is, you want to keep this dash in your back pocket. I'm not saying you can't dash aggressively here, but when you're dashing blind, like, imagine if you just dashed out here and there's like 3 people standing there. You got incredibly lucky that there was only one person, and they were in an angle that they were focusing on something else. They were not directly looking at you. Like, odds are here, this should have gotten you killed, and it didn't. Like, basically, the dash could be used defensively here, where you just peek out this corner and look this way, take the shot, and then dash back. Or if there's like a bunch of people here, you could still dash away. So yeah, the fact that this actually worked is kind of wild. I will say that your recoil control and your mechanical skill is definitely above where I would put, like, a bronze player. I don't know if your team have ultimate, but you should give this to your teammate. You have your ult already. you should give this to one of your other teammates so that they can get their ultimate, get a free ult point. You're going to take an ult point for no reason. So right here is a perfect example of, I think you should give your gun to your teammate and op. This is what you should start opping on Jett. You have a lot of money now. I think y'all have a ton of money. Yeah, you have a ton of money. I think it's super worth opping here. Something you do have to be careful of though, you know, the raise is close to the ult. The chamber has op. So those are two things to worry about. The enemy can make a decent buy with those things in mind. But I would definitely start opping here because you want, especially this round in particular, the enemies are probably going to buy here. And if they lose this round, they are going to be screwed next round for economy big time, right? And they could even invest ultimates here. And what happens a lot, I mean, the enemy team, one, don't have any smoke, so they can't really play around an op very well. They have flashes, but there's no guarantee that they will flash out the angles that they need to in order to stop you from opping. They've consistently peaked A main multiple times. We've seen that where they peaked here multiple times, and you can directly punish that with an op. And enemies will not play around an op the first time you use it. Oftentimes you can get value for free, get a free round the first time you use an op, especially when enemies are not thinking about what you could buy and what you can have. And so like if you op right here, odds are you're probably going to win a round for free, and it's going to end up in winning 2 rounds for free. And then you're gonna have so much damn money that when the enemy finally have a chance to take a round, which there's no guarantees, you'll be able to buy an op again the round after that. And you can just, you kind of get the picture here. So that's why I would definitely try to abuse an op here. Once again, you're kind of pushing up here. Let's actually see if you get cleared here. Once again. Oh my. Like, I've kind of talked about this a lot, and I think that this is one of the biggest problems with just trying to learn and get better at Valorant. People will repeat habits that work, right? And Sparrow has done this multiple times, and it's actually worked out for him in his favor with no punishment. And how are you gonna not like learn that this is not a consistent way to actually get value? And there's a lot of counters to this if the enemies never punish you for it. So I don't blame you for making plays. In fact, I think it's good. I mean, you're abusing poor players. What I'm saying is that eventually this is a very easily countered strategy. And it's something that can definitely get you in a lot of trouble if you're just trying to tuck in again and again, round after round, hoping that it works, preying on players that are bad when you run into a player that is good and they're just going to punish you for free. You're going to get shock darted out of here. You're going to get grenaded out of here. An enemy's just going to check you and click you in the head with Peeker's advantage. I mean, or even a pre-fire. Oh, yay. Yay. Now you're getting kind of pinched here. What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, so this is actually a really great teaching moment, and I'm glad this happened. When you kill someone and there's other people nearby, enemies nearby, it is super important to reposition. So look at how this Sage challenged you. Look at, so you're kind of getting pinched, you kill this person. And so this Sage, you kind of holding the smoke, and you really don't know if they're gonna come right at you out of the smoke or wide string here, right? It's a little bit of an unknown. But if we think about like the Sage in the smoke's point of view, they know what direction you shot from. So they will swing out of the smoke already aiming at exactly where you are. And that's exactly what happens. So her crosshair placement is already on point, right? That's the difference in this duel, is her crosshair placement is on point at you, and your crosshair place, you have to move your crosshair to challenge her. So that's why typically you get a kill and you want to move. You can silently move. You don't have to make noise. In fact, it's better not to. Kill and then take a couple of steps and then counter strafe and then be ready to fight the next person. Maybe you were a little bit afraid because the rain is on your left side, and that could be true, but it is important to understand that she's going to peek out of this smoke already knowing where you are, which gives her a huge advantage over the gunfight. Yeah, I mean, she ends up actually, you know, neither of y'all get a headshot. It ends up in a body shot battle, and she got first shot on you by a landslide. Still got decent value there, but it could have been so much more. Come on. I want to see the op, man. Show me the op. You're not a Jett player that's afraid of opping, are you? Come on. Show me it. Come on. Where's it at? Come on. Whip it out. Let's go. Let's see. Let's see. Come on. No. All right. I'm not saying that you have to op on Jett. I'm just saying that op is most powerful in Jett's hands. And op is a weapon that is so powerful the lower in rank you go. It's powerful in the high ranks. powerful in the mid ranks. It's a weapon that demands a very particular level of discipline that is not found often in disorganized teams. And the lower in rank you go, the less organized things are. I mean, just in general, it's a very powerful weapon for ranked. It's a lot easier to counter when you have a coordinated like scrim or pro team. But specifically for this, it's something that you can use to heavily snowball and heavily abuse. And it's also something that takes a lot of practice. If you don't practice the op, when you climb eventually to plat, diamond, even immortal, you're gonna start running into Jetts that will op on defense, op on attack, op all day, every day, and you're not gonna be able to out-op these players because you haven't put a damn second into practicing the op. We got a purebred rifler on our hands. Let's see. I want to see a peek here. Come on, show me a peek. Show me a peek. Show me a peek. Show me. You have a dash. Come on, show me. Not like that. No. I asked for it. It's in my fault. I asked for it. Not like that. I mean, peek. So you're putting way too much stock in like the breaking of ankles, right? The way that you're playing this is like almost like a Neon would want to play this, where they like yeet out and they really want to fuck with the enemy's crosshair placement. Like the enemy is like holding this, right? And then you Neon yeet out here, and then you're already pre-aiming that corner so that the enemy have to move their crosshair and then kill you. By the time they do that, you're already dead, right? The problem with doing that on Jett is that there's a huge weapon delay between the time you're dashing and the time you're whipping it out. So a good player, even a decent player, will be able to flick from this door, looking at this door, to where you end up. And they'll be able to flick and shoot you before you whip out your gun and shoot them. And that's something that's gonna happen often. So typically when you see Jetts dash aggressively, they do it by utilizing their smoke. So if there's a site, like let's say that you're playing on this way and you're going this way, you will smoke somewhere and then you'll dash into your smoke so that enemies, they see you dash, but they don't know exactly inside the smoke you are. And if they try to spray and don't get lucky and kill you, then you know where they are and you can pop out of the smoke and headshot them. So that's kind of how Jett creates a ton of space aggressively, is by utilizing both her dash and her smoke. And you're not just trying to break people's ankles here, because this shit will never work up against a competent player at all. It's not even working against players in bronze. So, bro, you're killing me with this without buying up, bro. Just buy it up, bro. Just buy it up. I think it's actually fine you not. Why is your Sova buying a fucking Bucky? What is happening? Where? Show me the economy. Please show me the economy. Huh? You can buy him a gun. In fact, you could buy this guy a gun too. You could use knives, buy this guy a gun. Wait. He can afford his own fucking gun. Okay, bro. All right. So when you do that peek, your crosshair placement is not correct here. So like how you actually want to peek this is like what you're doing right here. I don't understand. Like there's no way an enemy is going to be right here, like right now. So just look this way, directly at the wall, walk out and counter strafe right here, looking specifically at the angle that enemy, that's the least straight line of all time. Specifically at the angle that enemies can see you in, and have your crosshair right there ready. The idea here is that you have to flick as little as possible. You really don't want to have to flick. You don't want to have to move your crosshair hardly at all. And if you do, very, very tiny, very, very tiny amounts. The less, this is a general rule of thumb, the less you actually have to move to hit your target, the less you have to move this crosshair to hit your target, the more consistent your shots will be. When you see God plays, right, which is like, you know, you're flicking across your screen to hit a shot, those should be like 1% of your overall play. If every single shot you hit has to be a flick, then your crosshair placement is trash. Ideally, you only utilize those insane flicks when you have no choice. Like you're tapping the spike, you have no idea where enemies are, the time's ticking down, and enemies push you from two separate angles, and you have to shoot one and flick the other, right? That is it. Not in general, regular peeking situations. You don't want to have to flick like crazy unless you're forced to. And that's also something that you should learn to be better, is setting up situations where an enemy has to hit an insane shot in order to win. That doesn't mean that they won't win. It's just don't give them very easy shots. Don't play in a place that they're normally going to check. Don't hold an angle that players are normally going to check. Something also about Jett that you can do is you can start the round and swing out wide here. If you want to fight and hold with an op or even a rifle, you can hold what we call an off angle, which is away from cover. So like most characters are going to want to hold near cover because if they whiff, if they miss, they can dip, right? Jett can dip from any angle. She can dip, she can be standing in the middle and she can still dip. And what that does is an enemy that is peeking properly will peek around the corner with their crosshair placement right next to the wall because that's where most characters would play, but you're playing right in the middle. So in that time frame that they are moving their crosshair from the wall to the middle because you're playing in a very weird spot, you're going to kill them and then you can just dash away and not get traded out. That's the general idea behind Jett's power level over many other characters. It also applies to Reyna, a little bit more risky, and it definitely applies to Chamber as well. So yeah, like look at this swing. So like for one, you're already swinging. You're swinging out and your crosshair's not on this spot yet. And then when you finish the swing, you never actually put your crosshair at all where there's an enemy, like where an enemy would be. So that would have forced you to stop and flick to where they are if you saw an enemy at all, or just dash away without doing anything. I will say that your crosshair placement head height is typically pretty solid. It's a lot more solid than the Cypher that's on your team or some of the other players on your team. So I will say that that's true. And I think that that's another reason your recoil control, your counter strafing, and your crosshair head height are all above your rank. But I will say that specifically your dash use is about where I would expect. That's a big one. And then the way in which you're challenging some of these far away angles and you're not really utilizing the strength of your character to the maximum effectiveness. And you're definitely not opping, which is another thing. Pretty decent. Okay, your crosshair placement's dipping a little bit here, but okay, you saw an enemy here. I like your use of spraying too. A lot of players are afraid to spray, and I'm happy that you're not afraid to spray. You're not afraid to utilize your magazine. Good stuff. Now, I hope you learned something about how to improve your gameplay. But if you want to VOD review yourself, you got to reach out to me on the GameLeap Discord. So go check it out right now down below. And while you're there, the GameLeap website has in-depth tips, tricks, guides, and everything that you need in order to climb. If you want to improve incredibly fast, you got to go check it out right now down below.